Hi everyone, welcome to Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social. Hope everyone's doing well. Thank you for everyone, Eric and Kevin and Robert, who was in early doors. Welcome everyone. Well, should we kick it off with a wristwatch check? Thomas, what are you wearing?
Yeah, I'm wearing my since Dave's not here, to shame, but I'm wearing my Isotope times Scottish watches.
Ooh.
Idrium Alba. It's a Scottish watches collaboration with Isotope, which I bought at British Watchmakers Day last year.
Cool. Is that turquoise strap?
Turquoise rubber strap that they do, yeah. Jose from Isotope, great stuff, great work that he does, and I love it. Yeah, it's a great watch.
Awesome. Well, when we finish the wristwatch check, we'll do a couple of announcements, and you'll have to let us know about British Watchmakers Day. So
sure.
Mark, what are you wearing? Ooh,
the Christopher Ward C60 concept.
Yay, beautiful. Do you still like it?
Yeah. I mean, I sold my one of the C60s, the C60 Apex, because I fell out of love with that. But the concept and the C7 are pretty much keepers.
Yeah, I was supposed to be getting the new Edge that was released this week that I interviewed Will about. I was supposed to get it, but just logistics wise, it didn't. They couldn't get it to me in time because of British Watchmakers Day and stuff. So Watch Chris kind of came through final hour with his B-roll, and I managed to splice it in.
And that looks to be a nice watch. It's a good follow-on from the C60 Tide.
Yes, yeah,
which I have too. So,
awesome. Todd, what are you wearing?
So today, in as part of our discussion, I have a near NOS. If I can get the reflections right. Damn, I'm having a hard time today. Try it this way. There we go. Near NOS Seiko, 1983. There we go. 7A28 703A. This is the world's first analog quartz chronograph. And as part of talking about curation, we're going to talk about Seiko.
And it goes to show that you don't have to be one of the Holy Trinity to have a decent integrated bracelet.
You don't. And we're going to talk about this too. So
we definitely are. Okay, well, I'll finish it off with, I'm going to try the the rare double plug. So I'm wearing a Veya G2 GMT. Nice. So it's a little cheeky nod to the early Rolex Explorers quartz. Absolutely awesome. And then I'm wearing it on a Frog Squad strap. So Frog Squad Australia is our friend Luke, who makes these fabric straps. He makes all sorts of different ones. This one's quite cool. It's an elastic one that kind of tucks back through. So you can get quite a good tight.
Right.
I like that.
Is that Velcro?
It's not. No, it's all elastic except for the custom buckle, so it kind of folds. I've not seen one like this before, but extremely comfortable, as with a lot of elastic straps. And then before I go to you, Thomas, I'll just say we will unlikely be doing a live stream next week because I'm traveling. But unless I can get somebody step in, but I will be in the Dallas Wind-Up. So if anybody's going to be at Dallas Wind-Up, it's Saturday and Sunday next week. I'll be there on the Saturday, so definitely say hello. And then also let me know. Eric's already let me know in the comments. Let me know if you want me to try and live stream from there, because Thomas, we'll go to you next. But you live stream from the British Watchmakers Day. You had a good time live streaming, but I guess what was the day like as well?
It was a fantastic day. I mean, it was a social event. I mean, I saw Lucy Watchbox Diaries there, Dave Scotch Watches there, so Russell the Mad Watch Collector there, Adrian Bark and Jack was there, Andrew McCutcheon, Time and Tide, all the people were there. Some amazing watches from everything from Roger Smith to Arkan to APR to their triangular watches, some lower brands, watch supply that make kits so you can build your own watches, some great stuff, all the Christopher Ward stuff, the new they had a Mission 2 Maidenhead moon phase watch that they did for the day. All the brands do, the majority of the brands make limited special editions for the day, and that you can only buy there. As we know with the Studio Underdog Fears limited edition Gimlet, queuing to buy them, people queuing for 2 hours to buy them.
Wow.
Sold out immediately. They had a morning session from 9 till 2 a.m. I think it was 9 till 2 p.m. Sorry, and then 2 p.m. till 6 p.m. I ran the afternoon session, and I spoke to Richard Bank, and he said they flew out the door straight away. He was dressed in a suit like Nicholas, to sort of like go in partnership with Nicholas's sort of usual attire, and he really loved the part. It was great. It was a really good sport, and but it was fantastic. I did a little short, not short, 2.5 hour live stream of just on my phone, and wandered around looking at all the different brands, and some great stuff. I love Schofield watches stuff. Schofield watch company. Giles Ellis, he had some great stuff. My friend Brian Leach from Sidereus Watches in Ireland. Jose from Isotope. Vertex, Don Cochran from Vertex Watches had some really nice. One of their Aquiline watches they've done. Just an amazing array of stuff. Mr. Jones had a really wild dial that they'd done, a really artified dial that was hardly readable but really fun dial. Just some amazing watches to look at, and it's really, really great to see British watchmaking blooming, and it's really fantastic.
Awesome.
I mean, I can only encourage you to do a live stream from Dallas. It'd be really good. I mean, I'm sure the viewers would love to see it.
Awesome. Yeah. No, thanks for that. Thanks for that update. Cool. I think a lot of people are liking your live stream from there. Oh, we've got Kurt from Uncivil Law, who I don't know if you know, if anybody else watches like LawTube, they call it, which is all the lawyers that give. Especially Kurt was. I started watching him when he was doing the Johnny Depp trial. So Kurt, welcome to WatchTube. Welcome LawTube to WatchTube. Hope you're well. Awesome. Okay, well, so today's topic is going to be, and actually we were going to have a full panel, but unfortunately Dave couldn't make it, and then Pete might show up, but because the clock's changed here in the US, it's like brutally early for him because he's got a good take on this. But we need plenty of participation, audience participation on this one, because we are asking the question: the many faces of watch collecting. Are you an enthusiast, a curator, or, if anybody will admit it, are you a hoarder? So let us know in the comment section down below. But let's start with discussing. Well, should we self-identify as what we think we are? I think I might be an enthusiast. I don't like to have like a lot of watches. I don't have like a specific collecting goal in mind. I guess I'm more like, I don't know what you'd say. I like the watches I have when I have them, but then when I move on to other watches, I kind of forget about the one. So I don't. What would you call that? Like a goldfish brain collector.
A butterfly.
Butterfly.
Yeah. So I think I'll identify as a goldfish collector. But Thomas, what do you identify as?
I don't know. I mean, an enthusiast, most of all, first and foremost, an enthusiast. I think I've been through phases. You sort of start off as an enthusiast, you become a bit of a hoarder, you become overly enthusiastic, you become a hoarder. I've been through the microbrand phase, I've been through the Kickstarter phase, I've been through the then you elevate yourself to the luxury phase, and then I saw a Peter Kotzer video, and it was really interesting to hear from him. He's got a massive watches, and it was really interesting to hear from him. He was saying that he's done with watches now, and he's going to consolidate to an eight-piece collection. And he was saying that he's sick of banging his watches because he's a photographer, a professional photographer. He's sick of banging his watches on his photography equipment, and he gets really precious about the scratches he gets on them. And so he's obviously very precious about his watches. And he was saying that he is going for a one-in, one-out policy now. And I've found that tends to be the case. I found that this year, 2025, might be the year of consolidation for a lot of people. I've seen that a lot of people in WhatsApp groups, on YouTube, on Discord groups, all saying that they're consolidating to smaller collections. And I'm doing that myself. I've had the last year or so, I've had a massive 30 micro brands. I've sold them all. I'm currently in the process of consolidating my vintage Omegas because service costs. I mean, watches that I don't wear much, I'm consolidating because I don't wear them much. I'm consolidating them. So I've sold 4 of them so far. I've still got 2 of them on eBay. I'm going to keep 1. And so that leaves me with 15 watches still. And that's a lot, I find. You know, it's a lot. Do I wear a watch every 2 days, you know, for the month? Do I rotate them? I don't really rotate them. I've got 1 Rolex, which I've worn about 20 times in 15 years. So, I mean, should I sell that? I mean, I'm holding on to it for sentimentality because it's the first nice luxury. Oh, you okay, Mark?
Yeah, Mark.
I'm holding on to it because it's for sentimentality because it's the first nice luxury watch that I bought, and but really I should sell it and buy my exit watch, my Grail Breguet, and you know I should do that, but I'm stupidly holding on to it for sentimentality when really I people are telling me sell it and buy a Breguet that you want, you know, but
yeah.
It's a funny one. I mean, I would still consider myself an enthusiast, although I've been through hoarding phases, and I'd consider myself not a hoarder now. I'd consider myself. I've screwed my head on, and I've decided it's time to consolidate and come to a sensible size collection. Well, not sensible 15, but
yeah. For you. No, that's great. That's a great intro. Mark, are you okay? You're not.
I hope so.
Oh.
I am a hoarder, however.
Oh, okay. Well, you self-identify.
Yeah.
I love it.
No. Hello, my name is Mark. I am a hoarder.
I am a watchaholic.
I am a watch hoarder. Yes. I'm not saying that my collection doesn't have themes, but I'm not that disciplined with my themes. So, you know, 1/4 of my collection is chronographs, but that's, you know, disorganized bunch of chronographs. So yeah, I'm a hoarder. I'm probably at the upper limit of watches that are easy to maintain in rotation. And I have sold things. If I hadn't sold things, I'd probably have about twice as many as I have now. So, but yeah, I'm a hoarder. You know, they come in, they don't leave. But I do have a leave rule, which is if I don't wear a watch for a year and I don't miss it, I sell it.
Very sensible.
Yeah, that's like a minimalist tactic, isn't it? You hear a lot of those people that do. You know,
well, it means there's a high barrier to leaving, but there is a route to leaving. But I think this year will be a buy fewer watches year.
Yeah. I've so far I've been sent a few in for review. I've got like a Phoebus and some Veyers that I'm reviewing, but I'm actually sending the Veyers back, even though they kindly said I could keep a couple. I mean, might keep 1, but yeah, I've not bought a new watch. But anyway, Todd,
yes, So I think we have a decent balance. So here,
Yeah.
so I briefly showed this before. This is one of, I got this out of the safe. So this is one of my boxes of Seikos 6139.
Wow.
Well, let me do
Wow.
because I know people will love to see that. Oh, that's
Let's see.
beautiful.
Let's see if I can get it to, there we go.
Wow, look at that.
You can see my lights are kind of shining on it, but
Have you got multiples there? You got multiples of the same pokes, have you?
yeah, they're different dial configurations.
Wow.
There's 2 Australian ones in there. There's because what Seiko did, and it's only in here. What Seiko did is, as you know, the laws changed between proof and water resist and such. They changed their dials. So it's, you know, like anything else, rare dials are a thing. So for example, if I pull this up, so this is a they only sold these in, I have 3 silver ones. So silver Seikos, silver 6139s are rare. And more or less they came out of Australia, out of Indonesia. And unfortunately, I'm just not going to get this to focus, am I? But this is a proof dial, meaning this was only sold like for a year or so. This is probably, I can get it to go. Yeah, there we go. If I tilt it down a little bit. If this is maybe the rarest of the 6139s, this is silver proof dial. And so I hunted this, took me 4 years.
Oh,
before
wow.
I found this for sale in Japan. And I got it through Bai as an example. And so, you know, and so there's all these different weird variations of the of just that case size. So I have another box that has other 6139s, which aren't that case style. And so, and what's funny too is then you start to get into some crazy things. Like, so I think I'm a curator. I may be close to a hoarder like Mark, because what usually comes in doesn't go out unless there's a reason for it to go out. Like I have on my watch desk back there, I have 2 almost identical, they're identical models, but one of them has the original bracelet and one of them still has a case back sticker on it. So I'm going to take and swap them. So the case back sticker one has the original bracelet and I'll sell the other one, which is also in really good shape. But this is kind of funny too. So what happened in US is this kind of looks a little bit like a blue poke, right? What this is a Lejour.
Oh, lovely.
And it was sold through Sears. So this is a Sears tradition style, but it has almost identical ring and configuration that the Seiko 6139 has. And so you start finding things like this. So I've got a Sears tradition and the Lejour, both sold through Sears. Here's the Sears tradition one. And if I can get it, there we go. It's not too bad. You can see the resemblance, right? So you start finding stuff like this and it's like, oh, this is fascinating. So, you know, you start going after this. Yeah, that's why I'm named that. So, and so, yeah, it's like all the details, all the minutia associated with the model variants and such. And then you start going and going. I never intended to start all, you know, to really get this deep down the rabbit hole, but it's been a fascinating journey. And it's the hunting that's fun. You kind of go, I have people that know what I'm looking for all over the world, and they'll send me a message. Hey, I have this watch. I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. You know? And so that's how I end up accumulating this. So I probably have about 85 watches, not all Seikos. They're Mega, there's, you know, Hamilton, there's a bunch of other makes in there, Mont Blancs and all that stuff. But Seiko is by far the most that I have vintage Seiko. Yeah.
Do you find that when you do all this research on vintage watches, you find you have to have the watch in your curated sort of museum collection, or do you find that you could just admire it from afar?
That's a great question. If it fits in the theme, or if it's unusual, then yeah, I'll hunt it, you know. And these are not like you're hunting a rare Rolex. It's 20 grand or something like that. Sure. Yeah, this is stuff that's reasonable. Well, you'll use air quotes, reasonable, but yeah, I'll hunt it. If I find something I'm looking for, I'll go dig it up as best I can.
Yeah,
Right.
this is I think you're very rare. Well, sort of out of everyone that I know, you're very unique in the fact that you've really curated that specific those 6139 Seikos to almost like a mini museum, isn't it? I mean, I can't imagine there's. I mean, I went to the Seiko Museum, and they don't have that. Maybe they do in the archives, but they don't have that many of the. They had like one or two trays of the 6139s, but they had the different variants and stuff. And I did post some pictures on one of the YouTube videos. I wonder if they've got that many in the archives. I got the impression that there was what they had is what they had on show, because they did have a lot, but already in that box there was more of those than in the Seiko Museum in Ginza in Tokyo.
Yeah, and I've got a box like this with 6138s in it. For the other variant and stuff like that. So yeah, it's one of those things that just grabs you. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but that's why I think I'm maybe a little bit more of a curator than a hoarder.
Oh, you're definitely a curator.
Yeah, if ever there was one. It's funny. I always remember, was it X-Files or something, where they would find some like obscure specialist, wouldn't they? Like, like a werewolf specialist or something. There would just be like one guy who dedicated his life to studying werewolves. Yeah, do you remember? Was that like an X-Files thing where they would find somebody who was like an expert in this, who's like dedicated his life? That would be like you, wouldn't it? Or maybe for Kurt for Law Talk, you would be a special witness if somebody died with a Seiko 6139.
And I bet you the auction houses, if they ever have a 6138 or 6139, really don't want Todd to find out about it.
Yeah, I hunt them, and then you collect these things. Like this is by a guy in Japan that puts out the books on the Navitimer or on the navigators. And here's my 6139 book,
right,
by Sadeo Ryogo. He only did 100 of these initially. And I was one of, I jumped in front of it, and he even has, he even signed it for me. It's here somewhere, but it's kind of sad. I know it's kind of sad, isn't it, how all this works? But anyhow,
there used to be that TikTok trend, didn't they? Of people, they would come on and make a short video of why they were a big deal, but in like a super niche area. And somebody be like, "Oh, but I'm the world's expert at stacking dice or whatever." You're a big deal in a super
very tiny.
Yeah, you're like a celebrity within the collection scene of the Seiko speed timers, which is pretty cool. So I mean, I guess well, Thomas, you said you went through a hoard, and I definitely done this where I've gone through like a hoarding. I think when you first start out watch collecting, there's so much, isn't there? And there's so much across different price ranges. Like I have to stop myself because I'm a child of the 80s. So I have to stop myself on eBay looking at there's nothing more than I like an obscure Casio digital watch from the 80s. Yeah. Like because they made that was where they were really having fun, Casio in the 80s.
Yeah,
they did one with like games on, they beam each other, they had like a one with a thermal laser on it, and like voice recorders, and like you remember the pulsometers and all of that. Like they were having a lot of fun in the 80s. So there's nothing more than I like but I have to be dead careful because I have to think to myself, would I wear it? And I don't. I went through a phase of collecting those Timex data links because of their NASA link and because I thought they were cool. And then, but I guess, Thomas, what was the most you ever had?
The most, it got out of hand. I was reviewing them, odd ones for YouTube channel, and I was getting them for free, and I got about 30 different micro brands. Then I had 7 vintage Omegas, and then I had another 15 on top of that. So probably about 50.
Yeah.
And it just got unmanageable. I was replacing batteries in the quartz ones. I was having to get odd ones serviced, and I wasn't wearing them because I found that the more contemporary watches were the ones I wore most, and I'd stick to wearing a certain watch for a good week or something. And I'd look in the box and or boxes, and I'd see all these watches, and I think I haven't worn them. You know, there's these quartz ones ticking away. There's other ones which haven't been wound up for months, and you know, are they rotting inside? Are they the oil's drying up, and I'm not wearing them.
Yeah.
Somebody should be loving them.
Yeah, I'm like that, where I think somebody else could actually enjoy this a lot more. A lot of the ones that I get sent in, I actually do give a lot of them away. And I know somebody commented on one of my collection reviews, and they're like, "Oh, you haven't got many that you were sent in for review." The ones that, because a lot of them I don't get to keep. Like I've got Citizen and stuff. It doesn't matter to me whether somebody sends me a watch and gifts it to me or not. But somebody said to me, "Oh, you haven't got many that you were sent in," and that's somehow like a negative. And I always think of it as, especially with the ones I review, it's like a restaurant reviewer. I think once I've had the meal, like I would recommend, "Oh, you should definitely eat this meal. It's amazing. Like best vegan lasagna in the world, Mark." And but I don't have to eat the same thing every day. Like I don't.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I've had it. I can recommend. It's like the movies, isn't it? Like a movie reviewer, they don't watch the same film like every single day. They don't have to have it, or they don't have to have the DVD there or whatever. But so Mark, what's the most you've ever? I mean, do you actually? This is better. Do you have you have a specific sort of tool watch theme, don't you? Do you have any watches that don't fit into sort of the tool watch genre?
Yeah, quite. Well, I wouldn't say quite a few. If I can find it, it just seems to have fallen off the desk. Here we are. I apologise for the desk noise.
No worries. I was just plugging Christopher Ward so that I made sure I met my contractual obligations.
You need to drink it slower.
There is this one.
That's
not a tool. That's not a tool watch.
There,
yeah.
That. Oh yeah.
Right.
So, if something really stands out like this one, I will break out of the mold.
Yeah.
I did think of one point of writing an article that said what your watch collection says about your tastes, and are you lying to yourself, or are you misleading yourself? Yes, I like tool watches. Of the watches in rotation, a quarter of them are chronographs.
Yeah.
Maybe another third are dive watches, and then the rest are spread out over all sorts of stuff. And I don't necessarily stick to one brand, but I do keep a good fraction of my watches in rotation. It's the ones that aren't in rotation that should be sold. I'm just too lazy to go on eBay and sell them. Well, the other thing is, the ones that aren't in rotation, it's almost like it's not worth my time to sell them. So they just sit in boxes.
Yeah, we should get onto that bit. We've got some good comments through. So Eric Grimes he's self-identifying as a hoarding enthusiast.
Good for you, Eric.
Carlo said first time watching, greetings from Mexico. Greetings, thank you. And then Von Krull says, I went through an initial buying frenzy phase, all relatively cheap watches, and I don't regret a thing. I tried out different kinds of watches and rehomed them when I was done. Yeah, that's exactly what I've done as well. I think I've tried a lot of watches.
And I'd have to say I did the same, I went through the Seiko phase as part of that, or the quartz citizen phase. And then 11 years ago now, I started to get into the mechanicals again. And some of them, most of them I still have.
Yeah. I'd agree with Von Crude. I don't regret about a part of it. It's all part of your learning journey. It's all part of your watch journey. You know, this hobby is an illness, and it's they're the phases of the illness. You know,
that's the joke, isn't it? What advice do you give to new watch collectors? Don't
start collecting watches, right?
collecting watches. And then Kurt Uncivil Law saying, I'm currently lusting after a Bulliver Marine Star Precisionist. Very nice. And then Junior says he's given away a few watches, and we know that's true because Thomas, you've been a recipient of a very nice watch.
Yeah, a lovely one from Junior. Yeah, got me a Seiko. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
See, I've donated watches, sort of. I don't, the Seikos and so on. You just donate them to loopers who come and collect stuff. Would I do that with a Seamaster? No, I'd look for money for a Seamaster, but sure. some things you can just donate because it's just not worth the time to put the effort in and sell them.
Yeah, do you know? I won't name who the YouTuber is because he's a good friend of a couple of us on here. But he actually was the beneficiary of another collector who was just done with collecting watches, and he ended up getting Omegas, Breitlings, and all sorts sent over to him because this guy knew how much of a. I don't know whether he's Thomas. You know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah.
Did he ever mention it publicly? Anyway, we'll move on in case he hasn't said anything. But Seiko, you're not like it's not like a walled garden, is it? You do. Sorry, Seiko Todd. It's not a walled garden, is it? You let things go, don't you? As well, you're not. Or...
If I, but it's rare. So it's depending upon like if it's a vintage Seiko that fits in the collection, unless I change it with something that's better, that's a better quality or more, whatever investment grade, if you want to call it that, even though I don't look at it like that. I don't. So, but to your point, like right here on my desk, I actually have. So I'm kind of like Mark II. Really, I love chronographs of all sorts, and so that's why I've kind of got all those weird chronographs that are part of my collection that are on my Instagram. But I've got like we're going to do the like. So here's a Omega Broad Arrow that I got at auction, and it's up for sale on Chrono 24 only because I love this watch, but I've got a couple others in since then. And it's a little redundant, and so it's not a curated piece. So it's going to go. And this one, for example, the Gerard Perigo Ferrari chronograph, which is a really nice 38. It's a great size, but it's a black and white chronograph. And so when I was able to get a hold of that new Octavia, Tag Heuer Octavia, which I love, and it's it's new and all this, it kind of like okay, I've got a moon watch. I've got this black and white chronograph. Okay, I've kind of got some vintage ones. I've got this. So let's lighten the load a little bit of ones that are probably going to be a little bit redundant to the like. I have too many black and white chronographs. So as much as I like these, but they're not also part of the curation. So those will go. Hopefully, even though the market's kind of slow at the moment for this sort of thing. But if I find something that really like that red Omega, the chronograph, I just lost the name of it that I was able to finally find out at Japan. That one I was hunting for a little bit, and so that one then said, "Okay, I've invested in this one. Let me let a couple of the ones that again don't really quite fit right now." But my adjustments are very tiny, and I go very carefully through it in terms of what I think I want to get rid of.
I don't know if maybe this is just me, but if I buy a watch, I mean, I did this with those Grand Seikos. If I don't like it, I just can't keep hold of it. It stresses me that much out that I have a watch that I don't like. That I would rather sell it and lose the money because I mean, obviously, I don't want to lose like a lot of money. That would be awful. But and to be fair, that the Grand Seiko I sort of did, but then I made that video and everyone said, "Oh, you should have tried it on," and that boosted the video, which was awesome. But it stresses me out, and I would rather lose a bit of money on it than have a watch that I don't like. I might be unique in here. Has anybody else bought a watch and they just had to sell it straight away?
Yeah, Mark. No.
Thank you.
I bought a Christopher Ward C11 diver.
Okay.
And I bought it. It was their first wind up in New York. So it's a while ago because it was the second wind up. So, and I sort of fell in love with it on the stand, and then, you know, realized that it was the wrong shape for my wrist, and the loom was awful, and blah 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 blah. So it went, and that's one of the things of the brands I've sold the most.
This one.
Well, I had one of the elites, the 1,000 foot ones with the green. Yeah, it's like there were quite a lot of those, but it's that sort of style.
Right, interesting.
But, you know, one of the brands I've owned the most and sold the most is Christopher Ward, because it's so easy to sell on the Christopher Ward forum.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you know there's a market.
I've got a quick question for Todd and for Mark. You say you both like chronographs a lot, and I've got a friend who buys nothing but chronographs. I just wondered, and I know they cost a lot to service because of the complication. Is it purely because of aesthetics, or is it because you like the function? I mean, I things like the Rolex Daytona baffle me, because it's a watch that people never use the function on it. It's purely for show. I mean, so I was wondering, is your fascination with chronographs for aesthetics, or is it for the function?
I don't use the function very often, but I do use it occasionally. When I was making coffee with the cafetiere, I'd use the chronograph to time 4 minutes.
Right.
For the brewing.
Yeah.
They're so romantic, aren't they? Like the chronograph and the dive watch. They're the romance behind the fact that they were at one time a very necessary utility, especially a chronograph watch for like race car drivers and stuff, and obviously the moon landing.
Well, thing is for the racing drivers, a lot of the time it would be the passenger, the navigator, that's using the stopwatch anyway, because the driver's too busy driving.
Well, in rally, that's correct.
Yeah. And if you're looking at circuit racing, all the times are done on the pit wall with a whole bank of stopwatches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the myth about a Speedmaster originally being for a racing driver is a bit of a myth, because the driver's too damn busy to faff with it.
The Speedmaster for the co-driver doesn't have the same.
It doesn't have the same.
although Buzz Aldrin arguably was the co-astronaut, and he became very famous because of the Speedmaster. Right. So Von Krall has an interesting thing here, and it says, my sister was showing me a relatively cheap new Garmin watch with many capabilities. I showed her my casquette. It costs over 10 times as much and really does little in comparison. I joke about this all the time, that I have to not wear my Garmin. I wear it to bed and I wear it when I'm doing exercise, but I can't wear it full time because the devil on my shoulder is like, this does everything you would ever want. Why don't you wear this all the time? And I have to. It's here, but I have to keep it.
Does it have a date, Sam?
Yes, and the weather, and my stocks, and
that's kind of why I wear a really cheap Fitbit, because my eyesight's so bad I can barely see it's reading my heart rate. I know it is because I can track it, but I'm not using this for notifications because they're so damn small that I'd never read them.
Yes.
Actually, one of my better Amazon reviews, because I just say, don't think this is a smartwatch, because it isn't. It's a cheap fitness tracker. Treat it like that and you'll be much happier.
Yeah. There's some other good comments that are coming through as well. So Kurt's saying, recently had this experience with a Hamilton Khaki automatic 42mm. I got it in the mail, but I just didn't like it, so I sent it back. I think this is a top tip. If you for me, there's a couple of times I haven't done this and I should. I've got the watch, and I'm like, oh, I don't really like it, but I'll keep it for a bit, and it's past the time that I should send it back. But when other people ask me, like, should they send a watch back, if you can, like Christopher Ward or Amazon or whatever, I tell them, like, just send it back. Just don't. I said this to Michael in our WhatsApp group the other day, because he's holding on to a Bulliver watch in case somebody might want it. Like, he managed to get, and I do, just send it back. I've told this to people at work with Christopher Ward as well. Where they've got a Christopher Ward, because I mean, Robert was saying, where did Robert was saying before? Sorry, Robert, I missed it. He was saying always try before. Try before you buy, but you can't. A lot, especially if you're buying online and stuff like that. Christopher Ward's a prime example, but a lot of the vintage watches and stuff like that. There's no way of really trying them on. Or the vintage watches being smaller usually do wear.
Yeah, usually, hopefully, you have some background, and you say, okay, I know this Omega old, 1960s Omega Seamaster is going to fit me. That's such and such. But I was going to go back to, but the question too, I was going back to Thomas is, so I've been enamored with racing. So I'm a child of the mid 60s to 70s, 80s, and so I grew up working. I even worked some race teams and did some of my own racing and that sort of thing. I used to go down to 24-hour Daytona, like a religious festival, with my friends, and we'd work with some of the teams there too, because we had some connections. Anyhow, just the whole motorsports aspect of the chronograph is something that's always, I don't know, it's always been like synonymous, like watching, if Mario Andretti, what's he got on his wrist? He's got a hoarder. Or the famous especially American race car drivers, Dan Gurney. I bumped into him one time at Daytona when he was alive, and a few things like that. They always have some really cool chronograph on the wrist, because I would sit in the stands and do this, just doing some basic timing to see what was going on. But to what Mark was saying, it's, it wasn't for the purposes of recording something really important. It was just more like my own, interest. But yeah, it's the association, and then the space association, especially with Omega, which is one reason I really like Omega. I don't know. It's that whole piece. You're right. It's kind of that whole atmosphere enterprise concept. I do have, I think probably 80% of my collection are chronographs overall. And then maybe a few dive watches, and then a few, three-handers, not a lot, but a few interesting three-handers. Like I have a Gerard Perigo 3600 or 36,000 BPH dress watch. It's really cool. Wasn't really expensive, but it's really, really cool. So, that sort of thing. Speaking of smooth,
I was going to ask you as well, is your focus anyway? You answered it really, because you said 80% is chronographs. And I was going to say, is your focus mainly on chronographs? Because Jurassic Time was saying he likes to collect the Willard mainly. He thinks that's an iconic design.
They are, right. I know I have Seiko friends. There's like groups of us, and some of them are really heavy diver collectors. So they'll go after the 6105, the 6309, the 62 MAS, which are really collectible and highly valued, and that sort of thing. Like I have a Seiko Olympic timer. I have one from 1965. It was this first chronograph Seiko made. It's a monopusher that they did for the Olympics that they held. So I kind of, so the same esoteric things they go after, I kind of go after on the chronograph side. Yeah.
So I guess a question to the panel. I don't know, Mark, do you think if somebody came to you and said, hey, I'll just buy everything off you, like if it was easy to get rid of watches, if it was easy to move watches on for a decent price, would you think you would do that? Or
I would have to think I wouldn't sell everything, because there's a core of things. There's 3 Christopher Wards I'd never sell. One that my wife bought me on my 50th birthday, so I'd better not sell that if I want to live. But the Christopher Wards, there's 3 I wouldn't sell. The Omega, there's probably 4 or 5 I wouldn't sell. Everything else could go, except maybe this Le Bond. That's so funky. I've got to keep it.
So it's not that you other than the ones that you are, because
and the watches that were inherited. the inheritance watches.
Right.
Same with me.
The gold watch my father got for 35 years at Austin. That one's not being sold.
Right.
The Omega Genève he wore when I was growing up that inspired me to walk into an Omega boutique. That one's not going. But everything else, I could probably bring it down to 10 or 12 watches.
Yeah. That's really cool. What about you? What do you think? Do you think you would liquidate?
But who are you asking, Sam?
Todd. Sorry.
Oh, me.
Todd.
I mean, so what we're planning on doing, because there's several of us that kind of have a small group, especially Seiko enthusiasts, but we also some of the other guys have some nice Rolex, have some nice Omegas like I do too. They're even probably more expensive in their collecting. Is that we're going to just help each other out at some point to liquidate. It's such a point where you say, okay, I'm 80 and then let's get this done. And therefore my descendants do not have to try to figure out how to sell a bunch of whatever they are, right? Unless it's something that's almost like a currency, like a Rolex is almost like currency, right? But anything else is very, very few other things work that way. So you have to kind of know who to go to and how to sell things. And so I know somebody who's in the industry, especially watch in the kind of more high end watch auction industry, and I probably work with my friends to then liquidate all the watches that would go over, except for like Mark and you're talking about just things that are family heirlooms or something like that, and just have them liquidated at some point. At some point you got to say, okay, I'm done, and assuming your family isn't, you don't have kids that are ready to go, oh, I can't wait to get Dad's collection. That's not going to happen. And so, we'll liquidate them, and, the money will go to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
At some point. Who knows?
So Brassic Times saying, is there a Seiko museum in the US? I mean, I went to the one in Tokyo, but I can't.
No. Not that I know of.
Hamilton, there's a Hamilton museum, isn't there?
Yes. Well, Hamilton. So if you go, a lot of Hamilton is in Mount Joy, Pennsylvania, where RGM is. So the National National Association of Watch and Clock, NAWCC. There it is. That museum is near Lancaster / Mount Joy in Pennsylvania. And because Hamilton came out of Hamilton, that area, then there's a ton of Hamilton in that museum. Yeah. And it's maintained and such. Not just Hamilton, of course, but there's a big, strong presence of Hamilton in that museum. I don't know if
the guy, isn't it, who founded Lancaster, Pennsylvania, like a lawyer or one of the original town founders. It's what Hamilton's named after. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see a lot of that there, but I'm not aware of. And then, of course, you can go to see the Bullitt Museum in New York City. Which is I haven't seen that yet. I want to see that very much, but I don't think there's any Seiko in the U.S. that I know of in terms of a museum. Unless you're at my house.
Yeah, the only watches that I've seen sort of in like a museum setting in the US is the ones at, obviously the ones at Kennedy Space Center. They've got the odd couple of watches there, but not as many as you would think. If anyone travels through Atlanta Airport, they've got a small display of Martin Luther King's Timex. I think
he has some nice watches, if I remember.
Yeah, he had a Rolex, didn't he? He wore a Rolex and then a Timex. Like the Dalai Lama's hasn't he got Rolex?
Not too bad.
Yeah, he's got a couple of Rolexes, and then so they've got a nice. I think it's in Gate E. So sometimes I'm running past that gate in Atlanta, but it's got a really nice. It's got other artifacts from his life as well. But most notably for us, it's got his watch there, which is great to see. And it's got like shows some of the rallies that he was at wearing the watch. It's got the photographs and stuff. And then there is in the Museum of Modern Art, MoMA in New York. They've got the shop next to it. They sell watches, and you'd think it would be like the art swatches, but they've got obviously art swatches, and the other two brands that of note that are there are Young Hands and Unimatic are there as well, because they kind of won like a design because they created those as being the ultimate kind of design watches. In fact, Unimatic's done collabs with MoMA as well. But and so that's pretty cool to see. And then obviously I went to the Seiko Museum.
Great. But I'll put a plug for the NAWCC. So if you're in that part of central Pennsylvania, it's really worth going to that museum. I mean, the clocks, they have ancient timekeeping devices. It's really, really well curated, very much so. And you'll see some things. They have a Patek Philippe pocket watch, which with a minute repeater in there. I mean, it's stuff that you won't see probably anywhere else outside of Switzerland for those sorts of things. Just really, just extraordinary, stuff in that museum. So I highly recommend it. And they have once a year, they have like a big, I'll call it a big watch vendor flea market, for lack of a better term. And you can find some very rare and hard to find watches, for example, for sale by the various vendors. I've bought something through there before. So like my Bulova 1970 Bulova Stars and Stripes chronograph, I was able to find one for sale there as an example.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Thomas. So Brassic Time saying some Seiko collections are so impressive, important that they belong in a museum. You guys should set one up in the US. Maybe Seiko would help. But they're saving a nondescript ocean at the moment. So maybe after that.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
USA, is in New Jersey, right? So, but
yeah, maybe it would be. Yeah, I mean that would be cool, wouldn't it? I mean, the problem is the museum has got to be because Ginza is like the home of Seiko, and they've got their actual flagship store next door, so it's kind of like a bit of an add-on to the huge flagship store that they've got there. So it's kind of a semi-promotional, I guess, as well, and because it's got. He originally started there, Seiko. I don't know whether the general public would love a Seiko.
That's the point. I've been to that museum too. It's extraordinary because you could see actually it's a history of Seiko timekeeping. So all the electronics, all the like crazy stuff that they did, is just amazing. But Robert or somebody asked me, Robert asked me, is there one that I forgot them all. It's not Pokemon, so they keep not quite Pokemon. I'm still searching for some of the ones, and actually we find some sometimes that we didn't even know about, because Seiko didn't always capture everything in their catalogs. So the nice thing about this book is it's really handy. Is that in the back of it, he has a bunch of the catalog, from all the different years, for example, and some stories and advertisements. So you can kind of go in, you can say, that's one I'm looking for or something like that. And so, but they don't have every model, at least not that I've been able to find, because Seiko would issue different catalogs in different parts of the world. So the US catalog didn't have all of them. The JDM one did. And then they export in Indonesia and that part of the South Pacific. So it's kind of fun. You keep finding color combinations, things sometimes pop up and you're like, I didn't know that existed. So it's fun. It's still a journey.
So Thomas asked a question, which was, what does the chat think is the best collection size? So Robert says 10 is the max for him. Junior says, I think 7 nice watches and 1 beta would be a good collection. Von Krull says, I feel 10 is good maximum number and I'm open to going smaller, maybe 8, 6. We'll see. I can't plot that far ahead. Chili Badger, thank you for Chili Badger's always admining in the background, and I don't thank him enough, so thanks, Chili Badger. 1 to 2 heavy hitters, several medium hitters as my cheap, as many cheapies as possible. Yeah, Orange Hand has best collection side would be big enough to make you slightly guilty to buy more, and small enough to keep you from stressing you don't wear them enough.
That.
Yeah,
I like that way of measuring.
Yeah, we might have to steal that for a merch t-shirt, and then a merch t-shirt. And then Brassic Time says, unless you're really collecting specific watches, I'd say 12 watches is a good number. Covers all the bases, occasions, use cases, and variety, and small enough to wear all of them regularly. Yeah, it's funny. Does anyone think I'm worried? I'm thinking, not worried about this, but I'm thinking about this for Dallas, because it'll be like a watch show. Like, what watch do I wear? Do I wear my Braemont? Like, does anybody like keep hold of a watch for like a specific occasion or?
Well, I wore this isotope this British Watchmakers Day because it's a British brand, and I bought it the last Watchmakers Day. So I would wear a Jack Mason or something like that to the Dallas Fair, or Christopher Ward. I mean, Christopher Ward has got their outlet at Dallas, hasn't it? So that'd be perfect watch to wear. Something like that.
I mean, I think I might wear this Veya, or one of them. I might couple with me because they aren't going to be at the event, but they definitely deserve representing.
Sure.
Yeah. Mark, do you keep any for like a specific occasion or specific event?
Not really. I mean, for wind up, I wore a couple that people had asked me to wear because they'd never seen them.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
So people who knew I was going, can you wear this? Can you wear that? Because we've never seen it.
Phase. Is that why you wore that moon phase? Christopher Ward moon phase, yeah.
Yeah. Well, for that one, I wore that moon phase because they launched their other one, and I wanted to compare one from 2016 to whatever. But so. But it's not like Dubai Watch Week where people can try to compete by wearing the most expensive watch. Yeah. And let's face it, I am not going to win that competition, so I might as well wear what I like.
Yeah.
Although I actually did well with the Bel Canto because it had just won GPHG. So people can see it in the case, and then they see one. There was one wandering about.
Yeah, it's what I really like about. I used to go to there isn't I know Colby does a Red Bar in Tampa, but there isn't like a watch meal around here that I found. But when I did live in California, and I used to go with Chris, who we used to do the podcast with, we used to go to OC Chrono, it was called, and there'd be amazing watches there, but also like a blend of different watches, and people are more interested in why you like the watch. Like I remember one guy was there, and it was when Timex had just launched the GMT that looked a bit like a Rolex GMT. I was like, oh, how did you get that? Why did you? And I think people like the story, don't they? Like there's very interesting stories around why people select watches, or like how long they've had watches, or why they bought it in the first place. I think's more fascinating than it'd be more fascinating than if somebody showed me a Richard Mille, for example, and it was like 250,000. I'd be like,
couldn't you bought a Zurich for 1,000? Oops.
Bought the old Sega designs.
Or Sega,
yeah. Cool. Well, guys, that was really cool. Oh, Brassic Times coming in says also I need to count all my watches you have, including any in the drawer you've forgotten, that G-Shock, or any that are being borrowed by your other half. And very good. That's what
that's scary because if I put them all together, there's a lot more than I think I have.
Yeah, my wife's got a nice white watch collection, but she just wears an Apple Watch. I bought her some nice watches. She's got like in a safe, we've got like a Rolex and an Omega, which I don't, I sold my Rolex, but she still got hers. So that's funny. But Todd V, who he joins us on here and we do the podcast with, his wife is really into watches as well, which I think is rare.
Right.
Like, Mark, is your wife into watches? Or
can't stand them?
Yeah,
absolutely. I have never met anybody less interested.
She's a normie.
She is. She's the most. She is a normie. She doesn't even wear one, not even a smartwatch. She got out of the habit. So when we travel, she owns a couple of watches, but she only wears them when we travel. And then I have to go out and put batteries in them for her because she hasn't worn them for so long.
Yeah, that Omega, like that my wife's got, it's battery powered, but it goes quicker than anything. The battery runs out on it. Awesome. Judy saying thanks, fellas. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, thanks everyone big thanks to the panel, and thank you everyone for being so active in the comments. I hope you enjoyed that. We certainly enjoyed doing it, and we will probably, we'll see about next week. I might live stream from the event, but if not, we'll see you not next week, but the week after. Thanks everyone.
Great stuff.
Thanks.
See you next time.
Take care, everyone.